We begin this early Ash Wednesday morning with just passing on a request from Pope Francis, who asks that we give serious thought to dedicating our prayer and our fasting today for the people of Ukraine and the experience of the violence they're facing in the midst of war. The experience of Lent is often one where we look forward to for transformation in our lives. For on behalf of the people of Ukraine, may they be saved from that expression and extension of evil and sin that's being brought upon them in the face of war. It's interesting today in this passage from Matthew, we've got this Matthean approach to what has become for us the three great traditions of Lent: prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. And in the midst of prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, there's something very interesting for us just to hang on to. I guess there's a little bit of tension in the community in Matthew's day. There's a sense of how to live out what it means to be a believer. Do you do things that show your public faith, or do you do things that reflect more your personal transformation? And Matthew talks about the experience of prayer and fasting and almsgiving, basically by kind of throwing out the idea that when you're giving alms, don't blow trumpets before you like the hypocrites do to win the praise of others. And the phrase he uses over and over again, they have received their reward. The purpose of our participating in Lent is not to seek the reward or the recognition of others, even though we might say, hey, why do you put those ashes in your forehead for everyone to see? It's a reminder for us to think about how, instead of, say, blowing trumpets or standing in the town square or looking gloomy so that others will feel sorry for the sacrifice we bring upon ourselves, instead, think about what your Father in heaven will see, as Matthew puts it. In other words, Lent is a time for interior transformation, interior change. We remember Jesus talking about the experience of those who wanted to know about the dietary laws. Nothing that goes into you will defile you. It's what that comes from you that marks who you are and what you're about. And so we need to look to see in our relationship with the Lord and with our neighbor, how are we in our hearts? Is the Lord rooted there? Are we people who are people of prayer? Do we have that relationship with the Lord? Are we people who are aware of sacrifice that we make on behalf of others? Do we fast? What do we do when we encounter our sisters and brothers in need? Are we people who care for the poor? Are we people who believe in almsgiving? The three great Lenten traditions we look to live up to. That's an important part. That's like our cornerstone of our Lenten experience, because it's these things that help to focus us, purify us, help us to be ready to continue a journey of inner transformation. How do we repent? How do we change? We begin from the inside out. And that's what Lent is about. May we take a look at these things. There's a second aspect to Lent, too, that to me is equally important, and it deals with accompaniment. The accompaniment that comes from our being aware of our sisters and brothers in our families, in our neighborhoods in the world, and we walk with them in this journey to find greater closeness with Jesus, who walks us through the Lenten desert to bring us closer to the Father. That's a good thing for us to consider. And in a special way, let's keep in mind the members of our larger community who want to become part of this community. Our folks who, through the rite of Christian initiation, seek sacraments. And they'll get their sacraments at the Easter Vigil. Part of our accompanying the world means, in a special way, we put our spiritual arms around our sisters and brothers who want what we have. We are children of baptism, Eucharist, and confirmation. And some seek baptism. Some seek baptism, confirmation, and Eucharist. Folks, they want to share in what we have from our experience of our youth. May we accompany them in ways that speak of the inner transformations in our hearts and helping them to find that inner transformation in their hearts, that they can walk with the Lord, and together we can be God's people, God's one family. So we have good things to celebrate during a time when we are seemingly in the eyes of the world, we are suffering and just making sacrifice and carrying heavy burdens, when really, no, it's not the case at all. Prayer and and fasting and almsgiving, let us drop the heavy burdens around us that we can find the Lord more easily and more directly and go and be with the Lord. And say to the Lord, here I am, Lord. I'm here to do your will. I put aside the things that hold me back, the things that separate us. It's starting new. It's starting fresh. It is a prayer. It is a sacrifice. It is giving to others, giving of ourselves to others. But Lord, these are all things your Son did for us. How can we follow in his ways to come and stand at your feet? Folks, this might sound odd, but trust me. Happy Lent. Blessings for Lent. Live your Lent. Live it out. Blessings and praise to our gracious God this morning.